I happen to know that one of these two circuits goes to that outlet back there. So I'm going to shut them both off. And with circuit breakers, this is the center line of your service panel. And if it's pointed away from the center line, this way or this way, like that, then it's off. And if it's all these are on because they are pointed towards the center line, right? So you see all these are pointing towards the center line, they're on, except for these two down here are off because they're pointing away from the center line. With that said, I've never been to a house that had an accurate mapping of the service panel. It's all very nebulous, very generic. You'll see stuff like lights. Well, what lights? You know, all the lights? No, it's not all lights. You'll see stuff like, you know, kitchen. Well, and then another one that says kitchen. Well, what part of the kitchen is this and what part of the kitchen is that? I'm just giving you examples. So the first thing you want to do, if you're going to spend any time in this house, and it's not just something that you're working on, you want to get an accurate mapping. So I just do a spreadsheet. You know, it's the two pole, it's a 2 pole 30 amp, it's a single pole 20 amp. I mark it all out, and I go to each and every receptacle, and I make sure I know what receptacle goes to what outlet. I put that down on a spreadsheet that looks like a map of the service panel, and that way for any property I can pull up that spreadsheet and know exactly what outlet, what light, what switch, what appliance this particular or any particular breaker goes to. So with that said, let's go out here and start swapping this out. So first we're gonna get this cover off, and this cover will slide up and over the screws. To also take off this gasket here, and here's the outlet that we're trying to change out. And one thing that I like to do, as soon as I take the cover off and I'm exposed the wires, I'm going to hit one wire to ground, right, and another to both the posts, and make sure that nothing lights up. Okay, just in case I didn't hit the right circuit. And that one's down there. So there's nothing lighting up. This is safe to work on. So whenever you're dealing with the electricity, safety first. So get this bad boy out of there. And then this one out of there. This one's kind of stripped in this area. So this could actually use a new junction box, but that's probably a separate video. And we're just gonna take out the ground. So ground, typically black is hot, white is neutral, and unsheathed is ground. And you see how it slides into these little sleeves here? That's how all the newer, like for a long time, have been. Before you had to wrap it around the screw and tighten the screw, and that was kind of a nightmare, but these newer ones are much easier to work with in that regard. So this is our bad outlet, or receptacle I should say. I'm going to swap it for a new one. These, by the way, are GFCIs, which stands for ground fault circuit interrupters. You'll find these around like kitchens, bathrooms, anywhere that's supposedly by code, or at least here, the code says if you're within 6 feet of a water source, you have to have a GFCI because it'll shut off or for safety purposes. Now here, the sticker, if you read this, says it shows you the hot and the neutral. So hot is here, white is here, and then ground is over here, obviously. But under the sticker it says that the load terminal is under this label, which is these two terminals here, as opposed to these two. These are line terminals. And I can't really read this, but I'll just tell you the intent of this is for additional receptacles. Additional receptacles in this case refers to down the line, right? So you would at that point see two wires coming out of here, two bundles I should say coming out of here, and one would feed to an outlet down the line. Well, the feed that goes to the outlet down the line would be going into this load one with the tape over it. But since this is the end of the run, the circuit, we're going to put it into the line. All right, so I guess we'll start with the ground here, tighten it up, and what I like to do is use the Phillips head first because it's a little more convenient, doesn't slip all over the place like the flathead does. So I'll do Phillips first, and then I'll start going for the flatheads just to get a little bit more leverage on it. So I'll finish the tightening job of the flathead. And then this is the hot side. So you kind of got to shake it loose a little bit. And then give it a little bit of room for the wire before you stick it in. Let me get this out a little bit more. And there we go. Okay, so now we're into that sleeve there. Let's do a preliminary tighten with the Phillips side, and then let's finish it off with the flathead, because again, that gives us a little bit more leverage. So here, that's pretty tight, and that's pretty tight, and one more here on the ground wire. Okay, let's go ahead and get her back in here. And threading's a little messed up on this side of the junction box, so I could actually replace that at some point, but for now I'll just show you how this works. So we don't want to tighten these screws all the way, because remember, we need to leave a little bit of a relief for the cover to go on, because this is an outdoor deal. So we want to get the gasket in first, like that, and then the cover like this. To get the gasket a little bit higher up. Okay. Okay, now the screw seems to be catching onto that junction box. So it doesn't look like I'll need to replace it right away. But probably the next time this gets changed out, that should be addressed. Right, a couple more here. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and flip our circuit back on. And once again, if you're working on a new place and you don't want to figure out, and you can't figure out which circuit it is, I would shut off the main, because that way you know that there's no electricity going to the service panel whatsoever. Our circuits are both on, and whichever one corresponds to this is on. We should get a little light here indicating that we have power, but we don't. So go ahead and hit the reset button, and now you get the little green light there. So now we know we have power going to this. We'll plug in a light and see if she works. And yes, she does.